everyone. I'm Carlos Carnicero Urabayen, and I want to welcome you to another video talk of Future is Blue, the weekly newsletter promoted by Funcas Europe and produced by Agenda Pública. And today we're here to talk about Spain and the state of the Spanish economy. It doesn't look good, and we're going to talk in a minute about that. And I'm joined by Raymond Torres, Funcas Europe Director. And in fact, Funcas has just produced a comprehensive report about the state of the Spanish economy. And I want to ask Raymond about the key findings of that report. So Raymond, thank you for joining us. And perhaps you could comment on the basics of that report. And I understand, I've read that the decline in growth is expected to be around 13% in 2020. And the growth for 2021 is plus 7.9. So it's not, what we're gonna lose in 2020 is not expected to be recovered fully in 2021. So Raymond, what does this data say about the challenges of the Spanish economy right now?
Yes, Carlos, first of all, thank you very much for this interview. The figures, what they suggest is that the severity of the crisis caused by the pandemic has been very strong in Spain. This is something that already appeared very clearly with the data for the second quarter of the year. This was the worst result, very close to the UK, a staggering decline of 18.5% during just one quarter, the second quarter of the year. So this is confirmed, and but in addition, and that's what is new, what happens is that the summer has not been as good in terms of a possible recovery as was expected in the beginning. And there are various reasons for this. The first one has to do with, of course, the weight of the tourism sector. But in addition to that, the fact that there has been an upsurge in new infections. This has, of course, had a detrimental effect on international tourism. It was expected to be a bad year, but it has been worse than that. It has been really a terrible year, a decline by around 80% of arrivals of foreign tourists. This is about 2/3 of the, if you want, the slowdown that appeared during the third quarter. But the remaining third has to do with a deeper factor. It has to do with uncertainty. People feel insecure about their future, they feel insecure about their jobs, and then the implication is that they don't spend as much. They oversave, and the amount of oversavings, excess savings, is around 70 billion euro. It's about half the European Investment Fund, the European Recovery Fund, accumulating in accounts, in bank accounts by people because they fear the future.
So Raymond, this data is, it positions Spain in a very bad situation compared, you mentioned the UK, but is worse than its neighbors. And I know that there are other European countries with a great dependency on tourism, but maybe they are not being as hit as Spain. So apart from tourism, what do you think are the reasons why Spain is suffering so much?
So the one reason is, as I mentioned before, the upsurge in infections in the pandemic, the new wave of infections, which started at the end of July and gathered space in August and the last few weeks, especially in some regions like Madrid. This is one specific factor. The second wave is much more pronounced in Spain and its neighboring countries. The second reason has to do with the amount of fiscal stimulus, which has been announced and launched by the government. Because of a more limited fiscal space, Spain did not do as much as some of its neighboring countries. And this, of course, means that the recovery has not been as strong as would have been possible in the presence of a stronger fiscal stimulus.
Raymond, I want to ask you about the recovery funds and the expectations about the recovery funds. I have here, it's written here in front of me, Madrid is expected to receive 72 billion in the form of grants, 75 billion in the form of loans. That would represent approximately 15% of the Spanish GDP in 2020, which is a lot. Those are impressive numbers. So to what extent these funds can make a difference and have a crucial impact helping Spain recover from this pandemic?
These funds can make a big difference to the recovery of the Spanish economy. We estimate that it could add around 2 percentage points of economic growth during the period 22 to 26, which is going to be the core period for the spending of the funds. So this could be quite significant. It would help also bring unemployment down, perhaps by another 2 percentage points. And in addition, it would help also ease the pressure on budget finances, of course. However, there are two very important issues here, two very important qualifiers. The first has to do with the management of the funds. I mean, the European Recovery Fund will make a difference to the extent, first of all, that Spain is able to improve the management of funds. During the present EU budgetary period, which covers, as you know, the period 2014 to 20, Spain has only spent 34% of available funds. And this is the weakest result of all EU countries. So it's extremely important that the management of the funds, the ability to formulate proposals to Europe, the ability to follow up on those proposals, execute them, gather projects in partnership with the private sector, is extremely important, it's actually crucial to improve that in order to take full advantage of the funding. So this is one condition. The other has to do with other things that Spain should do, because it's not enough to get more investment and more funding from abroad. You also need to do a number of reforms in order to improve the functioning of the economy. Let's take the case, for example, of the digital economy is one of the important priorities for Europe. For Spain to seize all the opportunities, it needs to improve also its education and training system. The early school failure at the moment in Spain is about twice as high as the European average. And this is one of the issues, one of the key reforms that need to be launched. There are many others, of course.
Okay, thanks, Raymond. So these funds, there was a lot of talk during the months that we saw this recovery package was being negotiated, and the emphasis was put on a green recovery and a digital recovery. So do you think this is possible, these two elements can be combined with what you mentioned about the management? So about bringing the private sector in and the government working with the private sector and favoring reforms that consider the digitalization and consider the sustainability aspects of the economy. Is that all?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is perfectly possible. Spain can do that. Certainly, there is also a vibrant private sector in Spain with both in the high-tech sector. There are some very important names here, but also in renewable energy and in general in the green economy. Spain has actually developed quite interesting niches of specialization there, with a comparative advantage coming from, you know, some obvious natural resources like wind or solar energy, but also with a network of companies who can really participate in such an effort, which would be transformational for Spain. So I think the opportunity is really immense for Spain to really combine those enterprises, those sectors that do already possess a comparative advantage and expertise for many years, actually, that with the fiscal incentives that will come from Europe and from the Spanish government as such. So the real thing is really to articulate proposals that take those advantages. That's the real issue that we're talking about. And for these, there have to be some internal reforms in public administration in order to really formulate the projects in ways which are conducive to approval by Brussels in the end, and also to hear the needs and the projects coming from the private sector. I think this is really what needs to be done. I think Spain is capable of doing it. The best demonstration is that this happened during another period of great transformation in Spain, which was from the middle of the 80s, when soon after Spain joined the European Community of the time, and then throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, there was a big investment effort in Spain in terms of physical infrastructure. This was very successful, and still today it has entailed is a source of competitiveness for the Spanish economy, facilitation of communication in the country. So this works, and it was possible to do this very big effort then. It should be possible to do it now.
All right, let's hope so. Spain is capable, and I think it needs to do it because the challenge is huge, and what is at stake is too big to fail. So thanks, Raymond. I'm sure we're going to have more opportunities to comment on the evolution of course, the Spanish economy and how these funds are managed. So we will be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.